Have you ever felt like you were in the middle of a storm, with problems and challenges coming from all sides? In those moments, it seems almost impossible to stay calm. But what if I told you there is a way to face all of this without being shaken? The ancient Stoics taught us exactly that, how to act with serenity, as if nothing bothered us, even in the most difficult situations. In today's video, we will meditate on some lessons that can help us live a more tranquil and imperturbable life. Being stoic does not mean ignoring problems, but rather facing them with a new perspective, keeping our inner peace intact. I want you to feel part of this journey of self-discovery and growth. If you are not yet subscribed to the channel, click the subscription button and activate the bell so you don't miss any content. And if you like the theme that can transform your life, leave your like and share your reflections in the comments. Not forgetting to also write the secret and motivating phrase in the comments, "Nothing will shake me." Let's create a community of strong and resilient people together, capable of facing any storm with serenity and inner strength. Ready to start? Let's go then. The value of silence. Often silence is more powerful than words. In a world so noisy and full of distractions, knowing how to value silence is an important lesson from Stoic philosophy. The Stoics teach us that silence is not just the absence of sound, but a powerful tool for our inner peace and mental clarity. Think about how many times you have regretted something you said in the heat of the moment. Sometimes a thoughtless word can cause misunderstandings and unnecessary conflicts. Learning to listen more and speak only when necessary is a fundamental step to living like a true Stoic, acting as if nothing bothers us. The practice of listening is more than simply hearing words. It is about understanding the intention and feeling behind them. When we listen attentively, we show respect and empathy for others. This practice can improve our relationships and reduce conflicts. Think of a situation where someone is venting about a problem. If we interrupt with advice or opinions before truly understanding the issue, we can make the situation worse. Listening more and better allows us to offer genuine support and wiser advice. Another valuable lesson from the Stoics is to speak only what is necessary. Instead of filling every silence with words, we learn to value moments of reflection. This does not mean we should become reserved or quiet people, but that our words should have purpose and weight. Before speaking, ask yourself, is this true? Is this necessary? Is this kind? These questions can help filter what really needs to be said and what can be left in silence. Often by pondering these questions, we realize that silence can be the best answer. Silence also offers us a space to find inner peace. In moments of silence, we can reflect on our thoughts and emotions, understanding ourselves better. This practice of introspection is crucial for dealing with life's adversities without being dominated by them. By cultivating moments of silence in our routines, we can reduce stress and anxiety. It can be as simple as setting aside a few minutes a day for meditation or a silent walk. These moments of quiet allow our brain to rest and renew itself, strengthening our emotional resilience. The Stoics also teach us that silence can be a form of resistance against provocations and negativity. When faced with unfair criticism or provocations, silence can be a powerful response. It shows that we are not affected by the opinions of others and that we maintain our self-control. Responding with silence in conflict situations does not mean weakness or submission. On the contrary, it demonstrates inner strength and wisdom. By choosing silence, we are affirming that our inner peace is more valuable than winning an argument or proving a point. To incorporate the value of silence into our daily lives, we can start with small changes. Set aside time every day to be in silence, even if for just a few minutes. Use this time to reflect, meditate, or simply be present. We can also practice silence in our conversations, listening actively and speaking less. This can improve our relationships and create an environment of mutual respect. Silence is not empty, it is full of answers. By valuing silence, we find an inexhaustible source of wisdom and inner peace. Over time, we will act more and more as if nothing bothers us, living a life of true serenity and self-control. The power of habit. We all know that our repetitive actions shape our character. What we do every day, the small choices we make, end up defining who we are. The Stoic philosophers, like Seneca and Marcus Aurelius, spoke a lot about this. They believed that to be better people, we need to cultivate good habits. And one of the most powerful habits we can develop is to act as if nothing bothers us. Now you might be thinking, but how do I do that? My life is full of things that bother me. First, we need to understand that what really bothers us are not the things themselves, but our reaction to them. Epictetus, another great Stoic, said that it is not events that disturb us, but our opinion about them. So if we change the way we react, we can start to see things differently. Let's take a simple example. Imagine you are stuck in traffic. The traffic itself is neither good nor bad. It simply is. What makes you feel irritated is your reaction to it. Maybe you are in a hurry or simply don't like being stationary. But what if you decided that traffic will no longer bother you? What if, instead, you use that time to listen to an audiobook, reflect on your day, or just relax and breathe deeply? This leads us to the first habit to cultivate, the habit of changing our perspective. Instead of seeing events as good or bad, we can try to see them as opportunities for growth. When something bothers us, it is a chance to practice patience, resilience, and calm. Marcus Aurelius, who was the emperor of Rome and faced many challenges, used to say to himself, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Another powerful habit is the practice of acceptance, accepting that there are things we cannot change and focusing on those we can. Seneca taught that we should distinguish between what is under our control and what is not. Traffic, the weather, the behavior of others, all of this is outside our control. But our reaction to these things, that is in our hands. If we learn to accept what we cannot change, we will live with much more peace. Furthermore, cultivating the habit of living in the present can also help us act as if nothing bothers us. We often worry about things that have already happened or what is yet to come. But as a famous proverb says, live in the present, for it is the only thing you can truly control. When we are fully present in the moment, the worries and annoyances of the past and future lose their power over us. It is also important to remember that we are not alone on this journey. Everyone faces challenges and has things that bother them. Being compassionate with others and with ourselves is essential. Sometimes we are too hard on ourselves for feeling bothered. Instead, we can treat ourselves with kindness and remember that we are human, learning and growing every day. Another valuable habit is gratitude. When we focus on what we have good in our lives, the things that bother us seem smaller. Seneca said that gratitude is not only the greatest of virtues, but the parent of all the others. If we cultivate the habit of being thankful for the small things, we will find more joy and fewer annoyances in our daily lives. Finally, it is important to practice resilience. Life is full of ups and downs, and being resilient means not letting the downs bring us down. It means getting up, dusting ourselves off, and continuing forward even when things get tough. Remember that every challenge is an opportunity to become stronger and learn something new. By cultivating the habits of changing our perspective, accepting what we cannot change, living in the present, being compassionate, practicing gratitude and being resilient, we can truly begin to act as if nothing bothers us. This does not mean we will never feel bothered again, but that we will learn to deal with these feelings in a healthier and more productive way. Remember the words of Epictetus. Happiness and freedom begin with a clear understanding of one principle. Some things are within our control, and some things are not. Focus on what you can control, your actions, your reactions, and your habits, and you will find an inner peace that nothing can shake. The power of meditation. Meditating is like giving a gift to our mind. In the hectic world we live in, Our mind is constantly full of thoughts, worries, and distractions. Meditation is a way to clear this clutter and find a place of calm and inner peace. Have you ever stopped to think that we often overreact to situations because we are overwhelmed? When we are stressed or anxious, any small problem can seem like a major catastrophe. It's as if we are carrying a bucket full of water to the brim, and the smallest drop can make everything overflow. Now imagine that meditation is like emptying this bucket a little at a time. When we dedicate a few minutes of our day to silencing the mind and reflecting, we are creating an internal space where we can find tranquility. In this space, we can observe our thoughts and feelings without being dominated by them. Meditation helps us develop a quality called equanimity. Equanimity is the ability to maintain calm and balance even in the midst of chaos. It is like being a firm rock in the middle of a storm. When we cultivate equanimity, we can face life's difficulties with more serenity. The things that used to bother us begin to seem less important. A simple meditation practice you can try is breath meditation. Find a quiet place where you will not be interrupted. Sit comfortably, close your eyes, and begin to pay attention to your breath. You don't need to do anything special. Just observe the air entering and leaving your lungs. If your mind starts to wander, and it will, gently bring your attention back to your breath. This simple practice can help calm the mind and reduce stress. Another useful technique is mindfulness meditation. Instead of trying to empty your mind, you simply observe your thoughts and feelings as they arise. Do not judge. Do not try to change anything. Just observe. This can help us realize that our thoughts are just thoughts. They are not reality. They come and go like clouds in the sky. Stoicism teaches us to accept that some things are outside our control. We can apply this wisdom to meditation. When we meditate, we accept that we cannot control everything that happens around us, but we can control how we react. We can choose not to be shaken by the small irritations of daily life. Imagine that someone at work made a disagreeable comment. Instead of reacting impulsively, you can take a moment to reflect. Breathe deeply and observe your thoughts and feelings. Maybe you realize that the person who made the comment is having a difficult day and did not mean to offend you. Or maybe you realize that even if it was intentional, you do not need to let it ruin your day. Meditation gives us the inner strength to deal with these challenges. By practicing regularly, we begin to see subtle changes in our lives. We become calmer, more patient, and less reactive. The things that used to bother us begin to seem less important. We can face the ups and downs of life with more grace and balance. So, set aside a few minutes of your day to meditate. It doesn't have to be complicated or long. Just a few minutes of silence and reflection can make a big difference. Over time, you will realize that you are acting as if nothing bothers you, not because things have stopped happening, but because you have developed the ability to maintain calm in the midst of the storm. This is the true power of meditation. Maintain calm in the face of adversity. The Stoics teach us to face challenges with a tranquil mind. The way we react to difficulties is what defines our true strength. When we face a difficult situation, it could be a problem at work, a conflict with someone close, or a personal challenge. Naturally, these situations can generate stress, frustration, or anxiety. However, Stoic philosophy offers us a different approach to maintain calm in the face of adversity. This attitude not only helps us deal better with problems, but also strengthens our character and resilience. Maintaining calm does not mean ignoring or underestimating problems. On the contrary, it is recognizing the seriousness of the situation, but choosing not to be dominated by it. Think of the ancient Stoics. They faced great challenges in their lives, from exiles and illnesses to extreme political pressures. What made them remarkable was not the absence of problems, but the serene and resolute way they dealt with them. Consider a daily example. You are stuck in traffic and will be late for an important meeting. Frustration and stress begin to rise. But following Stoic philosophy, you can choose how to react. Instead of letting anger take over, breathe deeply and remember that the situation is outside your control. What you can control is your response. Maybe you use the time to think about how to better prepare for the meeting, or simply to relax and listen to a song you like. The key is not to allow adversity to steal your peace. Another important aspect of Stoicism is understanding that all difficulties are temporary and part of the flow of life. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, frequently reflected on the transient nature of problems. He reminds us that what seems unbearable today may seem insignificant tomorrow. This thought can help maintain perspective and calm in the face of adversity. Furthermore, maintaining calm also involves accepting that failures and setbacks are opportunities for learning. When we face a problem with a tranquil mind, we are more apt to find creative and effective solutions. Instead of focusing on what went wrong, we can focus on how to improve and grow from the experience. Every challenge is a chance to practice Stoic resilience. For example, if you are dealing with unfair criticism, instead of reacting impulsively, you can choose to listen calmly. Evaluate the criticism objectively and decide if there is anything useful to be extracted. This controlled response not only preserves your inner peace, but also shows maturity and wisdom. Finally, maintaining calm in the face of adversity helps us live a more full and balanced life. Instead of being constantly pushed and pulled by external circumstances, we can find a center of tranquility within ourselves. This allows us to face life with more confidence and clarity, knowing that regardless of what happens, we have the ability to choose our reactions. Practice Stoic calm. When adversity arises, breathe deeply, observe the situation with detachment, and act as if nothing bothers you. Over time, this practice will become second nature, and you will discover a new strength and serenity in your life. Maintain a tranquil mind, for that is where true strength resides. Refine your perception. One of the most important lessons of Stoicism is the ability to see things objectively without letting our emotions distort reality. This principle is fundamental to acting as if nothing bothers us. So how can we train our mind to achieve this refined perception? Firstly, it is crucial to understand that our perception of reality is often influenced by our emotions, prejudices, and past experiences. When something happens, we tend to judge it immediately, assigning positive or negative values to the event. This automatic reaction can lead us to interpret situations in a distorted way, amplifying the emotional impact and making us more vulnerable to stress and anxiety. To refine our perception, we must start with self-awareness. Observe your thoughts and emotions without judging them. When you notice that you are reacting emotionally to a situation, stop for a moment and ask yourself, am I seeing this objectively, or are my emotions influencing my view? This pause for reflection can help separate the facts from your emotional reactions. A useful exercise is to practice the suspension of judgment. Imagine you are observing the situation like a scientist collecting impartial data. Describe what is happening neutrally without adding adjectives or assumptions. For example, instead of thinking, "My boss criticized me unfairly," rephrase it as, "My boss made comments about my work." By removing the emotional charge from the description, you can see the situation more clearly and objectively. Furthermore, the practice of meditation can be extremely beneficial for refining your perception. Mindfulness meditation, in particular, helps develop the ability to observe your thoughts and feelings without getting involved with them. Over time, you become more aware of how your mind reacts to different stimuli and learn to maintain calm, even in challenging situations. Another important aspect is to cultivate empathy and understanding. Often, our emotional reactions are exacerbated by a lack of understanding of others' motivations. Try to see things from other people's point of view. Ask yourself, why did this person act this way? By trying to understand the perspectives of others, You can reduce the tendency to react negatively and increase your ability to respond with calm and understanding. Remember that refining your perception is an ongoing process. It's not about achieving perfection, but about gradually improving. Celebrate your small victories along the way and be kind to yourself, even when you make mistakes. Every step you take to see the world more objectively is a step towards greater emotional resilience and inner peace. By incorporating these practices into your daily life, you will begin to notice a change in the way you handle challenges. Situations that once seemed overwhelming will become more manageable, and you will find a new strength within yourself. Refine your perception. Discover the power of seeing the world with clarity and balance conflict resolution. Facing conflicts with calm and reason is a powerful skill that can transform our interactions and significantly improve our quality of life. Let's reflect on how we can resolve our disagreements more peacefully and rationally, inspired by historical principles and other practices of wisdom. Firstly, it is essential to understand that conflicts are an inevitable part of life. They arise when there are differences of opinion, interests, or values. Accepting that conflicts are normal helps us approach them with a more open and less defensive attitude. Instead of seeing conflict as a battle to be won, we can see it as an opportunity for growth and mutual understanding. Before trying to resolve a conflict, it is important to look within yourself. Ask yourself, why am I feeling this way? What are my true interests and concerns? Self-awareness helps us identify our emotions and automatic reactions, allowing us to address them in a more controlled manner. One of the Stoic teachings is the practice of self-examination, where we reflect on our thoughts and actions. This practice can help us respond to conflicts with more calm and clarity. One of the most important steps to resolving conflicts peacefully is active listening. This means really listening to what the other person is saying without interrupting or planning our response while the other is speaking. Practice empathy, putting yourself in the other person's shoes and trying to understand their perspective. Often conflicts intensify because both parties feel misunderstood. Showing that you value and understand the other's feelings can reduce tension and open the way for a more harmonious solution. When it is time to express your own feelings and opinions, do so clearly and respectfully. Use I statements instead of you statements to avoid accusations and defensiveness. For example, instead of saying, "You never listen to me," say, "I feel ignored when my ideas are not considered." This approach helps keep the conversation focused on solving the problem instead of creating new frictions. Conflict resolution should focus on finding solutions that satisfy both parties. Instead of insisting on being right or winning the argument, look for a compromise or a third option that meets everyone's interests. This may involve brainstorming ideas together and being willing to make concessions. Flexibility and a willingness to collaborate are essential for finding a lasting resolution. Maintaining calm during a conflict can be challenging, but it is crucial. Breathe deeply, count to 10, and remember that anger and frustration only make it harder to find a solution. Finally, every conflict is a learning opportunity. After the resolution, reflect on what happened and how you can improve your conflict resolution skills in the future. Ask yourself, what did I do well? What could I have done differently? Learning from our experiences makes us more resilient and effective in dealing with future conflicts. Resolving conflicts with calm and reason is not easy, but with practice and patience, it is possible. By understanding the nature of conflicts, practicing self-awareness, active listening, clear communication, seeking joint solutions, maintaining calm, and learning from each experience, we can transform our relationships and live more harmoniously. Remember that the peaceful resolution of conflicts is a path to inner peace and a more satisfying life. Rationality. Rationality is like a beacon that guides our actions through the fog of emotions. Often, our decisions are influenced by intense feelings that can cloud our judgment. If we are able to use reason as our guide, we can analyze our decisions with more logic and less emotion, making our choices more balanced and sensible. Rationality also allows us to separate facts from interpretations. We often interpret situations in a way that intensifies our negative feelings. For example, if a friend does not respond to a message immediately, we might think they are ignoring us. However, a rational analysis might consider other possibilities, such as the fact that they might be busy or without access to their phone. By doing this, we avoid creating unnecessary suffering for ourselves. Furthermore, being rational does not mean being cold or insensitive. It simply means giving more weight to facts and evidence than to momentary emotions. This can help us make more balanced and less impulsive decisions. When we face a dilemma, we can ask ourselves, what are the pros and cons of each option? What are the long-term consequences? By asking these questions, we are using reason to guide our actions in a more conscious and effective way. To practice rationality, we can adopt some simple habits. First, set aside time to reflect before making important decisions. This can be done by writing down the pros and cons of each option. Second, seek feedback from trusted people who can offer an objective perspective. Third, try to maintain calm in high-pressure situations, remembering that hasty decisions are rarely the best ones. By cultivating rationality, we are not only improving our ability to make decisions, but also strengthening our emotional resilience. By learning to see situations more clearly and logically, we can deal with life's challenges with more serenity and less stress. Self-sufficiency is the ability to find happiness and contentment within ourselves, without depending excessively on external factors. In a world that constantly tells us we need more things, more recognition, more success, learning to be happy with less can be a true personal revolution. Developing self-sufficiency begins with appreciating the simple things in life. We often focus so much on what we don't have that we forget to value what we already possess. Small things like a beautiful sunset, a conversation with a friend, or a home-cooked meal can bring a lot of joy if we allow them to. By focusing on these experiences, we begin to realize that happiness does not have to be complicated or expensive. Another important aspect of self-sufficiency is self-acceptance. We often seek external validation to feel good about ourselves. However, when we learn to accept and love ourselves for who we are, we reduce this need for external approval. This makes us less vulnerable to the opinions of others and more secure in our own skin. Practicing self-compassion and recognizing our own intrinsic value are crucial steps in this process. Self-sufficiency also involves the ability to be emotionally independent. This does not mean we should isolate ourselves or avoid relationships, but that we should be able to find peace and contentment on our own. We can cultivate this by dedicating time to hobbies and activities that bring us joy, practicing meditation, or simply spending time in silence, reflecting on our own needs and desires. Furthermore, voluntary simplicity is a practice that can strengthen self-sufficiency. This may involve reducing consumption, letting go of unnecessary material possessions, and focusing on experiences instead of possessions. When we reduce our dependence on material things for our happiness, we discover that we are able to find satisfaction in a more sustainable and gratifying way. Developing self-sufficiency is an ongoing process. It's important to remember that we do not need to be perfect and that there will be times when we feel vulnerable or insecure. The important thing is to continue working in this direction, recognizing and celebrating our progress along the way. By becoming more self-sufficient, we discover an inner strength that allows us to face the ups and downs of life with more balance and serenity. We learn that true happiness is not in external things, but within ourselves, in our attitudes, and in the way we choose to live our lives. Detachment from outcomes. One of the most powerful teachings of Stoicism is the idea of focusing on the process, not the outcomes. This concept, though simple, has the potential to free us from anxiety and the fear of failure. When we focus only on the outcome of our actions, we inevitably become hostages to factors that are outside our control. Imagine you are preparing for an important presentation at work. If you focus only on the outcome, your boss's reaction, the possibility of a promotion, or the recognition of your colleagues, you may feel anxious and stressed. However, if you concentrate your energy on the process, the preparation, the clarity of the message, the practice, you will have more control over your performance and consequently less anxiety. Detachment from outcomes also teaches us to value the learning and growth that come with each experience, regardless of the outcome. When we adopt this mindset, every challenge becomes an opportunity for personal improvement. If something does not go as expected, instead of feeling like failures, we can ask, what can I learn from this? How can I improve next time? Furthermore, focusing on the process helps us remain present and conscious in the current moment. Marcus Aurelius, a great Stoic, wrote, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." When we are absorbed in the now, instead of worrying about what might happen in the future, we experience a sense of peace and contentment. To implement this practice in your life, start by identifying areas where you are excessively focused on outcomes. It could be at work, in relationships, or in personal goals. Ask yourself, what can I control here, and how can I fully dedicate myself to the process? Make a conscious effort to redirect your attention to what is within your reach. Remember, the goal is not to be indifferent to the outcomes, but not to allow them to determine your peace of mind. Detachment from outcomes does not mean disinterest or lack of ambition, but a way of liberation from anxiety and the fear of failure, allowing you to live a more full and balanced life. Acceptance of loss. We all at some point face losses in our lives. It could be the loss of a loved one, a job, an opportunity, or even a valuable object. The way we deal with these losses can determine our emotional and mental well-being. Stoicism offers us valuable lessons on how to accept losses and move forward in a resilient manner. The first Stoic lesson on accepting losses is to understand the impermanence of all things. Everything in life is transient. Remember that all is ephemeral, said Seneca. When we accept that everything is in constant change, we become more prepared to deal with inevitable losses. Accepting losses does not mean ignoring the pain or pretending we are not suffering. On the contrary, it means recognizing our feelings and allowing ourselves to feel sadness, anger, or frustration, but without clinging to these emotions. It is an active acceptance where we recognize the reality of the loss and decide not to let it consume us. Another important point is the practice of gratitude. Instead of focusing only on what we have lost, the Stoics encourage us to remember what we had and to appreciate those moments. Epictetus advised, "Do not seek for things to happen as you want them to, but rather want them to happen as they do happen. And your life will go well." By accepting the natural flow of life and being grateful for what we have had, we can find peace. Reflecting on what we have learned from our losses can also be transformative. Every loss brings with it a lesson. Perhaps we have learned to be more resilient, to value the present more, or to reevaluate our priorities. Seeing loss as an opportunity for personal growth helps us move forward in a stronger and wiser way. Practicing detachment is fundamental. We suffer more from the attachment to the things or people we have lost than from the loss itself. Detachment does not mean lack of love or indifference, but an understanding that our happiness should not depend on external factors. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Receive without pride, let go without attachment." By practicing detachment, we find an emotional freedom that allows us to live more fully. Finally, cultivating a long-term vision can help with the acceptance of losses. When we focus on the big picture of our lives, we realize that a loss, however painful, is just one part of a larger journey. This gives us the necessary perspective to move forward with hope and determination. Accepting losses is an ongoing process that requires practice and patience. By adopting a Stoic perspective, we can learn to deal with the inevitable losses of life in a more serene and resilient manner, finding strength within ourselves to continue our journey. Patience. When we talk about acting as if nothing bothers us, one of the most powerful lessons of Stoicism is patience. Patience, both with oneself and with others, is an essential virtue that can profoundly transform our relationships and our own inner peace. Think of patience as a muscle that needs to be exercised. The more you use it, the stronger it becomes. Stoicism teaches us that patience is not just waiting passively, but an active practice of serenity and control in the face of adversity. It is learning to navigate the storms of life with a tranquil and balanced mind. Firstly, we must cultivate patience with ourselves. We are often our own worst critics, judging ourselves with severity and impatience. Remember, we are all in constant evolution. Every mistake, every stumble is a learning opportunity. I want to tell you a brief story, that of Marco, a young man who was always very hard on himself. Marco was a perfectionist, and at the slightest mistake, he would punish himself mentally, which generated anxiety and frustration. One day, he decided to study Stoicism and discovered the importance of patience with oneself. Marco began to practice self-compassion, accepting that he was on a journey of growth. Over time, he realized that his mistakes did not define him, but his reactions to them did. By being patient with himself, Marco began to feel calmer and more confident, realizing that he could face life's challenges without being so shaken. Just as we should be patient with ourselves, it is crucial to extend this patience to others. Everyone is fighting their own battles, many of which we know nothing about. When we practice patience with others, we cultivate healthier and more harmonious relationships. Patience with others means giving them space to grow and learn at their own pace. Instead of reacting with anger or frustration, we try to understand the reasons behind their actions. This does not mean tolerating harmful behaviors indefinitely, but approaching situations with an open mind and a compassionate heart. I want to tell you another story to make you reflect, that of Anna and João, two colleagues. João had a habit of procrastinating, which often affected Anna's work. Initially, Anna would get extremely irritated and constantly argue with João. After studying Stoicism, Anna decided to try a different approach. She began to practice patience, calmly talking to João about deadlines and offering her help to better organize the tasks. To her surprise, João reacted positively and over time began to improve. Anna's patience not only improved their relationship, but also created a more cooperative and productive work environment. Patience, as the Stoics teach, is not a sign of weakness, but of inner strength. By practicing patience, we learn to act as if nothing bothers us. This does not mean ignoring problems, but approaching them with a tranquil and resolute mind. Developing patience transforms our relationships as we begin to interact in a more compassionate and understanding way. Furthermore, it strengthens our inner peace as we cease to be easily shaken by daily difficulties. Start today to practice patience with yourself and with others. Remember the story of Marco and Anna and João and see how patience can change your life. By cultivating this virtue, you will not only improve your relationships, but also find an inner peace that will allow you to face any challenge with serenity and strength. Acting as if nothing bothers you is possible when you embrace patience as a fundamental pillar of your being. Maintain calm under pressure. Maintaining calm under pressure is a valuable lesson that Stoicism teaches us. When we face crises and instabilities, our natural reaction may be panic or stress. But it is precisely in these moments that serenity becomes most necessary. Acting as if nothing bothers you does not mean being indifferent or insensitive, but adopting a posture of emotional control and mental clarity that allows us to make rational and effective decisions. Stoicism offers us several techniques for dealing with pressure rationally and balancedly. One of the most important is the practice of the dichotomy of control, which consists of distinguishing between what is under our control and what is not. Focusing only on what we can control helps us reduce anxiety and respond to challenges with greater effectiveness. It is incredible to observe how certain trees deal with a storm. Amidst strong winds and torrential rains, some trees do not stubbornly resist the forces of nature, but flex their branches and deep roots to remain firm. They accept the adverse conditions and adapt to them without losing their essence. In the same way, we can face our personal storms with an attitude of flexibility and acceptance, maintaining our internal serenity while adapting to external circumstances. This also reminds me of a majestic, imposing, and serene mountain that silently observes the passing of the seasons. Even facing furious winds, violent storms, and sometimes devastating earthquakes, despite all these extraordinary forces, the mountain remains unshakable. It does not react impulsively or desperately. It simply exists, resisting and persisting. This imperturbability of the mountain teaches us a powerful lesson about maintaining calm under pressure. To apply this philosophy in your life, start by adopting some daily practices of self-awareness and self-control. Another Stoic technique is negative visualization, or premeditatio malorum. This involves imagining possible adverse scenarios before they happen, preparing yourself mentally to face challenges. By doing this, you become more resilient and less susceptible to emotional shock when confronted with real problems. It is not about being pessimistic, but about being prepared and maintaining serenity in the face of the unexpected. Remember also the importance of maintaining a broader perspective. Often, what causes us stress is our tendency to amplify problems and lose sight of the context. Try to see difficulties in a more comprehensive light, considering the big picture of your life and the world around you. This can help reduce the perception of urgency and severity of immediate problems, allowing you to deal with them more calmly and rationally.